Hello, hello. I'm so happy to see you again today, and I'm excited to decorate, sing, and share another story with you today. Well, would you like to find out what's in our Advent calendar for today, December 19th? Let's find out. Oh, it's Mrs. Potts and Chip from the Disney story Beauty and the Beast. Oh, aren't they cute? Well, why don't you help me find a place for them on our Christmas tree? How about here? Well, Sasha, what do you think of our tree? It's a good girl. Hi. Can you say hello? Say hello. Good girl. Well, Mrs. Potts is one of my favorite characters because I love tea. I love all kinds of tea, but perhaps the kind that's the most Christmassy is the bright green tea called matcha that's used in Japanese tea ceremonies. And did you know that visiting Tokyo Disney is one of the most popular things to do on Christmas in Japan? Well, Christmas wasn't celebrated in Japan until recently, and it's celebrated pretty differently than in other parts of the world that we've visited already. In Japan, people may still send Christmas cards and exchange presents, but Christmas Eve is more like Valentine's Day is for us in the US or the UK. It's a romantic day for couples to give each other gifts and spend time together. And on Christmas Day in Japan, there's a tradition you might be familiar with, but not think about for Christmas, and that is KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken. That's very popular to eat for Christmas Day meals, and it's because about 45 years ago, KFC had a Kentucky for Christmas advertisement series that was quite successful, and now people in Japan think of KFC for Christmas. And if you remember from A Christmas Carol, Mr. Scrooge sends Tiny Tim and the Cratchit family a turkey dinner for Christmas, and a lot of us have turkey as well, so it's really not all that different. Well, the way to wish someone a Merry Christmas in Japanese is very similar to English. It's almost the same greeting. It's just been adapted to fit the regular sounds of the Japanese language. And so you say, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Very good. Well, another reason I love Mrs. Potts is because she loves singing, and so do I. And would you like to sing a new song with me today? Okay, good. Well, today we're going to practice the song called Up on the Housetop. Do you know that one? It goes like this. Up on the housetop the reindeer paws, out jumps good old Santa Claus, down through the chimney with lots of toys, all for the little ones' Christmas joys. Ho, 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 who wouldn't go? Ho, 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 who wouldn't go? Up on the housetop, click, 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 down through the chimney with old Saint Nick. Well, why don't we try working on the first part of the song together? And the lyrics to that are, up on the housetop, the reindeer paws, out jumps good old Santa Claus. So here, Santa and his reindeer have just landed on someone's roof, and the reindeer pause, or they wait a minute, so that Santa can get out of the sleigh. Then we have down through the chimney with lots of toys, all for the little ones' Christmas joys. So Santa is going down the chimney to leave some toys to help make the children's Christmas more special. So all together we have, up on the housetop, the reindeer paws. Out jumps good old Santa Claus. Down through the chimney with lots of toys, all for the little ones' Christmas joys. So would you like to sing that with me 2 times now? Great. Let's start here. Up on the housetop the reindeer paws, out jumps good old Santa Claus, down through the chimney with lots of toys, all for the little ones' Christmas joys. One more time. Up on the housetop the reindeer paws, out jumps good old Santa Claus, down through the chimney with lots of toys, all for the little ones' Christmas joys. Very nice. And tomorrow we'll work on the second part. But for now, it's time for our story of the day. And we're continuing the one we started yesterday, which is called Little Gretchen and the Wooden Shoe by Elizabeth Harrison. And if you missed that one, you can go and watch yesterday's video, but I'll give you a little reminder of what happened. We met 2 people, little Gretchen and her granny, who live on the edge of the forest, and they're very poor, but they work hard to make enough to support themselves and to have food. And Granny works in the forest. She bundles the loose twigs and things to take to town to sell. And Gretchen sometimes goes to town with her. And yesterday they were just in town, and it's very close to Christmas. And Gretchen saw all of the beautiful decorations and toys that were in the town, and she was just asking Granny what she was going to get for Christmas. But Granny said, child, you'll have no Christmas this year. We are too poor for that." "Oh, but Granny," interrupted little Gretchen, "think of all the beautiful toys we saw in the village today. Surely Santa Claus has sent enough for every little child." Dearie," said Granny, "those toys are for people who can pay money for them. And we have no money to spend for Christmas toys." "Well, Granny," said Gretchen, "perhaps some of the little children who live in the great house on the hill at the other end of the village will be willing to share some of their toys with me. They will be so glad to give some to a little girl who has none." Dear child," said Granny, leaning forward and stroking the soft, shiny hair of the little girl. "Your heart is full of love. You would be glad to bring a Christmas toy to every child, but their heads are so full of what they are going to get that they forget all about anybody but themselves." Then she sighed and shook her head. "Well, Granny," said Gretchen, her bright, happy tone of voice growing a little less joyous, "perhaps the dear Santa Claus will show some of the village children how to make presents that do not cost money, and some of them may surprise me Christmas morning with a present. And Granny dear," she added, springing up from her low stool, "can't I gather some of the pine branches and take them to the old sick man who lives in the house by the mill, so that he can have the sweet smell of our pine forest in his room all day on Christmas?" "Yes, dearie," said Granny, "you may do what you can to make the Christmas bright and happy, but you must not expect any present yourself." "Oh, but Granny," said little Gretchen, her face brightening, "you forget all about the shining Christmas angels who came down to earth and sang their wonderful song the night the beautiful Christ child was born. They are so loving and good that they will not forget any little child. I shall ask my dear stars tonight to tell them of us. You know," she added with a look of relief, "the stars are so very high that they must know the angels quite well, as they come and go with their messages from the loving God." Granny sighed as she half whispered, "Poor child, poor child." But Gretchen threw her arm around Granny's neck and gave her a hearty kiss, saying as she did so, "Oh, Granny, you don't talk to the stars often enough, else you wouldn't be so sad at Christmas time." Then she danced all around the room, whirling her little skirts about her to show Granny how the wind had made the snow dance that day. She looked so droll and funny that Granny forgot her cares and worries and laughed with little Gretchen over her new snow dance. The days passed on, and the morning before Christmas Eve came. Gretchen, having tidied up the little room, for Granny had taught her to be a careful little housewife, was off to the forest, singing a bird-like song, almost as happy and free as the birds themselves. She was very busy that day, preparing a surprise for Granny. First, however, she gathered the most beautiful of the fir branches within her reach to take the next morning to the old sick man who lived by the mill. The day was all too short for the happy little girl. When Granny came trudging wearily home that night, she found the frame of the doorway covered with green pine branches. "It's to welcome you, Granny! It's to welcome you!" cried Gretchen. "Our old dear home wanted to give you a Christmas welcome. Don't you see? The branches of evergreen make it look as if it were smiling all over, and it is trying to say, 'A happy Christmas to you, Granny.'" Granny laughed and kissed the little girl as they opened the door and went in together. Here was a new surprise for Granny. The 4 posts of the wooden bed, which stood in one corner of the room, had been trimmed by the busy little fingers with smaller and more flexible branches of the pine trees. A small bouquet of red mountain ash berries stood at each side of the fireplace, and these, together with the trimmed posts of the bed, gave the plain old room quite a festive look. Gretchen laughed and clapped her hands and danced about until her house seemed full of music to poor, tired Granny, whose heart had been sad as she turned toward their home that night, thinking of the disappointment which must come to loving little Gretchen the next morning. After supper was over, little Gretchen drew her stool up to Granny's side, and laying her soft little hands on Granny's knee, asked to be told once again the story of the coming of the Christ child, how the night that he was born, the beautiful angels had sung their wonderful song, and how the whole sky had become bright with a strange and glorious light, never seen by the people of earth before. Gretchen had heard the story many, many times before, but she never grew tired of it. And now that Christmas Eve had come again, the happy little child wanted to hear it once more. When Granny had finished telling it, the two sat quiet and silent for a little while, thinking it over. Then Granny rose and said that it was time for them to go to bed. She slowly took off her heavy wooden shoes, such as are worn in that country, and placed them beside the hearth. Gretchen looked thoughtfully at them for a minute or two, and then she said, "Granny, don't you think that somebody in this whole wide world will think of us tonight?" "Nay, Gretchen," said Granny, "I don't think anyone will." "Well then, Granny," said Gretchen, "the Christmas angels will, I know. So I'm going to take one of your wooden shoes and put it on the windowsill outside so that they may see it as they pass by. I am sure the stars will tell the Christmas angels where the shoe is." "Ah, you foolish, foolish child," said Granny. "You are only getting ready for a disappointment. Tomorrow morning there will be nothing whatever in the shoe. I can tell you that now." Well, I'm afraid we're going to have to end our story here for today. But we're going to find out tomorrow what happens. Whether Gretchen finds the shoe empty or whether she finds something inside it. Why don't we end our time together today with another Christmas carol? And this one is called Angels from the Realms of Glory. If you know it, feel free to sing with me. Angels from the realms of glory, wing your flight o'er who sang creation's story, now proclaim Messiah's birth. Come and worship, worship Christ the newborn King. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.